Hi everyone, my name is Charlie Chun, expert dog trainer, and today we're going to be talking about how to give your dog affection. Most people think affection with your dog includes petting them all the time, giving them free treats, and even letting them on the sofa and the bed. Real affection is giving our dog structure, boundaries, and purpose. Our dogs have languages just like us, and you can consider these their love languages. They communicate through body language, food, and verbal. And through these languages, we can show them that we know what they need and that we care for them. The first love language that I want to talk to you about is body language. Now, with body language, this is a way that you can actually show affection to your dog and show them that you respect their boundaries. There's a lot of dogs that might want to share proximity, but don't always want to be pet. And there's some dogs that really like to be pet, but only in a certain way. This is a wonderful way to show the dogs that you respect them and you understand their needs and their desires. So we have Pinda here, and he is an anxious dog. The way that I pet him and the way that I interact with him is very important. If I choose to hover or if I choose to kneel and be in his face, he's probably not going to like that, and that's going to be too intense for him. This is also the reason why I'm sitting, to ensure that I'm not accidentally hovering or giving bad body language and saying, I'm trying to dominate you right now. I like to do this with new dogs or anxious dogs or dogs that I'm trying to bond with, but I don't want to be too forceful. 3 seconds of petting allows the dog to choose if they want to re-interact with you. So they might be interacting with you, and if you pet them for too long, they might get over it and they might not know how to pull away. So to ensure that the dog is consenting consistently and to make sure that we are not putting too much pressure on the dog, 3 seconds of petting and wait. If the dog comes back, great, 3 more seconds of petting. But if the dog steps away or if they kind of just shove you off a little bit, that's okay. Sharing proximity still allows us to bond with the dogs, and it shows them that we respect their space. 3 seconds of petting. Good boy. Let's see if he re-interacts with me. Good. 3 seconds of petting and relax. So again, notice I'm not hovering. I'm not starting to do really deep pets. He doesn't want that right now. I might offer a little shoulder pet. He doesn't want anymore, and that's okay. Good boy. So what I'm looking for and what I'm deciding if he wants to be pet or not, he's showing that his ears are kind of pinned back. He's actually kind of panic scanning. He looks like he's actually trying to get out of the situation right now. And so that's a really good indicator that in that moment, it's not a good idea to pet the dog because it might be overstimulating them more. Another really clear-cut sign, obviously if the dog is showing teeth or growling, that dog needs space. Hopefully we never push the dogs to that point, but those are definitely things to be looking for. So while we always want to give our dogs kisses and deep hugs, make sure that it's the affection that they actually need and that they want. Another dog language is food. A lot of people will talk about food lore or food motivation. They're all talking about the same thing. Dogs love food. And the reason they love food so much is because it literally releases dopamine into their brains. And we can definitely use this to our advantage. We want to make sure that we're treating them the right things and we're treating them at the right time. And this is going to deepen your bond with your dog. So one of the things that you can do is simply an obedience routine or even what we call a let's go. You can use the food and lure them and show them, hey, if you pay attention to me, you're gonna get me and the food. So it's a double whammy and a double dopamine dump. So we're gonna be using Gustav, and I'm gonna show you just how food motivated he is. Now, what I mean when I said you have to know what to treat your dog, you have to make sure that it's something that isn't super high value. That way they're not even paying attention to you. You want them to still listen and hear you. So if you're using something too high value, they might block out and just do every trick in the book without even really listening to you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a food that I know that he likes, but he's not totally obsessed with. It's enough motivation for him to still listen to me and work for the food as well. So I'm just gonna do a simple obedience routine and show you what it looks like when I lure him with the food. So I'm gonna be using the food and I'm gonna put it on his nose and actually physically pull up, and you're gonna see him follow this food. Good boy, good. And that's food lore, it's as simple as that. I'll show you a couple more things and what it looks like when he's following around the food, but still paying attention to me as well. Good, good. So highly food motivated, but not enough to where he's not gonna be listening to me. Plutz. Good boy. Nope. Plutz. Good. There we go. Good. Sit. Nice. Good job. So you can see I was using the food and I was communicating with him. I was using verbal a little bit, which we'll get into, but right there you saw I can literally get him to do anything without even speaking with him, just by getting him to lure with the food. Good boy. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit of when to treat your dog. As I've discussed, dopamine is released when you give your dog food. So we want to make sure that we're treating them at the correct times to make sure we're not accidentally reinforcing bad behaviors. For example, if you have your dog barking and you don't like that they bark, don't treat them after they bark. If you don't like that your dog jumps on guests, don't treat them after they jump on guests. Definitely use your food in a very structured way and know exactly the rules of the house. That way you know when to treat your dog and your dog knows when they're gonna get a treat. The last language that we're gonna talk about is verbal language. Now, this is the last one I like to talk about because this is something that is not naturally instinctual for our dogs. We actually have to teach them verbal. No matter what language it is, if you wanna speak to them in English, German, French, any language that we speak to them, it's not natural for them. Now, yes, they make howling noises and they make whines and grunts and things like that, but actual words, we teach them that. So I like to cover this last because it's important to know that we really have to go over this with our dogs and we really have to reinforce for them to actually understand the words that we say. So when we are using our verbal, we want to make sure we're using it in the correct way. If you're telling your dog to sit, but they're sniffing and smelling and moving all over the place, they might think that means sit because you constantly say that word while they're doing that action. So it's best when you are teaching the dog to sit or any new command, you say it once, wait for the dog to do it, then you can reinforce with confirming that word. I'll show you what I mean. Now let's say that, for example, Gustav doesn't know the word sit. I've taught him in German, so hopefully maybe he won't be as smart as I think he is. I'm gonna ask him to sit, and then I will only say it once, use my food lure, and then if he listens, then I'll give him the food. If he doesn't, I'm not gonna keep saying it, repeating it, otherwise he's gonna get confused. Sit. Good, sit, you're a smart boy. Down. Good, who taught you English? Good boy. So as you can see, he is responsive to verbal, and I made sure to give him the food after he did the position, and I only asked him once. The last thing I want to talk to you about verbal is, again, because it's not a natural language for our dogs, as people, we tend to overspeak to our dogs, and a lot of the times, they don't really need it. So make sure when you are speaking with your dog, it's clear and direct, and it's not as much as you would talk to a normal person. If I tell Gustav, hey Gustav, do you want to go to the park and run around and play with your ball? He probably got park, ball, and run out of all the words that I just said. So we want to make sure that we're using those key words and not over-speaking. That way we're not confusing them. One of the great ways about verbal language is that we can actually tie in our halo collars. Our halo collars use positive reinforcement and verbal language to help us communicate with our dogs properly and show them, hey, you get good things when you wear this halo collar. So when we're using our encouragement feedbacks on our halo collar app, what it does is it helps us communicate with our dog and it gives us more tools and more verbal language to be able to use with our dog. We have encouragement feedback that is like a kiss or a good boy, and all these things can show the dog, hey, I like what you're doing, keep doing that. And they love that. With other invisible fences, it's very common that when the dog passes the boundary, they get that correction, and when they try to come back, they get another correction. What's great about the halo collar fence is that it can actually help recall your dog and give positive reinforcement instead of giving them a correction when they're trying to come back to you. As a trainer, one of the common things that I see is that the dogs don't want to recall to their owners, whether it's because they're scared to cross that fence boundary again, or just because they don't know their recall very well. What's wonderful about this halo collar is that it helps the dog understand they get great things when they come back to you, and it gives them that encouragement and motivation, and it can help deepen your bond with the dog because they actually want to hang around you. During this month of love, What's great is that we can use our halo color to reinforce our verbal, or we can use our other love languages like our body and our food lure to help show our dogs this is what we want, this is how you get it, and this is how we can strengthen our relationship. Hopefully these tips can give you a healthy relationship with your dog and build that bond. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Charlie Chun, and I'll see you next time.